Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Part 141 based on novel. So let's start. As he thought, Hui Yuhao drifted up and charged towards the room where the Soul Emperor was. Very soon, he was outside the door. Given the number of people that were in this residence, he was absolutely confident of defeating all of them by himself. However, he didn't want to alarm anyone. He remained quiet outside the window. His spiritual power was focused inside the room, and he silently listened and observed. There was a 50-year-old Soul Emperor reading some documents in the room and nodding occasionally. To only be a Soul Emperor at such an age meant that he had no future. Furthermore, Hui Yuhao also sensed the presence of soul tools in the room. Undoubtedly, he had to be a Class 6 soul engineer. Someone came. Hui Yuhao felt something, and sensed a few people outside the residence. From their dress, it seemed like they were all businessmen instead of military personnel. These people quickly entered the residence after sending word of their arrival before rushing into the room where this Soul Emperor was. "Sir, people from the Sunmoon Chamber of Commerce are here," a soldier respectfully reported from outside the room. "All right. Let them in," the Soul Emperor said calmly. The few businessmen were led into the room under the guidance of the soldier. At the same time, they bowed towards the Soul Emperor. "How is it? How's the plan going?" the Soul Emperor asked. A lanky businessman replied, "We experienced some difficulty at the start. The nobility of the Heavenly Soul Empire discriminated against us. However, after you sent out instructions not to confiscate their land and wealth, they didn't dare to openly express their hate towards us even if they secretly hate us. They only resisted our efforts in the shadows. Over these few days, we've already demonstrated how magical soul tools can be, which I believe is slowly moving them. This is especially true for our thermal radiators, which I believe they are most interested in. Thermal radiators can greatly conserve costly coal. Every other week, we'll just need a soul engineer to pour in his soul power. That'll be sufficient to power a thermal radiator to keep a plot of land not bigger than 500 square meters warm. We can even avoid the smell of burning coal." They are all very surprised. The Soul Emperor nodded in satisfaction and responded, "All right, continue to advertise. Give them everything. Don't feel heartache over that. The Marshal has mentioned that even though we'll experience some temporary monetary losses, they'll eventually be reliant on us once they adapt to a life of soul tools, and won't be willing to return to their obsolete lives. After we win over the nobility and convince them to work for us, we'll then turn our efforts to the citizens. In a few years, we'll win the hearts of the entire city." "Yes." The businessman nodded respectfully. After this, they carried out a series of reports. They were talking about how to transport soul tools into the city for the noble families and teaching them how to use them. They were also talking about how to move the nobility, as well as who were the ones who had been moved, and who were the ones who were still very stubborn. The entire report lasted roughly an hour before the businessman left. After sending them to the door, the mayor returned to his room and muttered in awe to himself, "Marshal, you are far-sighted. This method is much better than performing a massacre. The Sunmoon Empire can't just rely on military power to rule the entire continent. This method to use soul tools to win the hearts of the people is indeed impressive. We've lessened the number of troops in the city, making them relax their guard. After that, we used soul tool technology to infiltrate their lives, although we're the ones who control the core technologies. In the future, there'll only be the Sunmoon Empire. The funny thing is that the Heavenly Soul Empire, Star Luo Empire and Doling Empire are still trying to resist us. Perhaps they'll discover in a few years that their citizens in the territories we've occupied are no longer loyal to them." "Ha, brilliant. This is indeed brilliant. The Marshal is indeed the person I admire the most. Conquering hearts without using force. That's the most advanced of all strategies." Hui Yuhao stood outside for 2 hours and listened to everything. After listening to this point, his expression had already turned slightly pale. "Impressive. This Marshal that he's talking about is too impressive. using soul tool technology as a means of infiltration. What kind of brilliant idea is that? The air outside was extremely cold, but Hui Yuhao was dripping with perspiration. An overt plot, it was a true overt plot. Perhaps he could destroy everything in Dragon City with all his strength. However, if the Sunmoon Empire did the same throughout the entire Heavenly Soul Empire, there was no way he could stop them unless he could drive them out quickly. Who exactly was this marshal? He actually had such a strategy. He was indeed a brilliant strategist. Hui Yuhao had seen Xu Tianran before. He didn't have a good impression of him. Without a doubt, Xu Tianran was an anti-hero. However, it was perhaps because of his disability that he seemed very sinister and vicious. Right now, the strategy that Hui Yuhao heard of was definitely something that an anti-hero couldn't have thought up. This was a true overt plot. It was upright, but perhaps only effective in the long term. However, if it worked, it would be extremely effective. If they succeeded, the Heavenly Soul Empire would find it extremely challenging to regain hold of the territories they had lost. Given the current situation in all the empires, the foundation of every empire was the nobility. The nobility controlled almost all the resources in an empire. The most powerful of the nobility were naturally the imperial families of each empire. This was the foundation of a monarchy. This was why the Sunmoon Empire had a very specific target. First, they chose to penetrate the hearts of the nobility of the Heavenly Soul Empire. Once the nobility slowly sided with the Sunmoon Empire and helped them promote soul tool technology in their own empire, they could only be subjected to manipulation, given that they didn't possess any core technologies. They would forever be reliant on the Sunmoon Empire. The longer they were under occupation, the more evident this would become. This was too terrifying. The person who came up with this strategy left Hui Yuhao in awe. There weren't any massacres. It was through pure soul tool technology penetration that the Sunmoon Empire demonstrated their advantage to the fullest. Before today, Hui Yuhao would never have expected the Sunmoon Empire to use such a method of invasion. How should he react to such a strategy? Hui Yuhao silently left the residence and found a hotel to stay the night. He was sleepless the entire night. It was only when the sky had already brightened that Hui Yuhao retracted his thoughts. To him, it was fine that he couldn't sleep the entire night. It was just that he couldn't think of a proper way to deal with the Sunmoon Empire's strategy even though he had been thinking the entire night. What an overt plot! It was an overt plot that one found difficult to counteract. It wasn't completely foolproof. The simplest way of dealing with it was to quickly reclaim all the lost territories. At the same time, the Sunmoon Empire had to be stopped. It was only through this way that they could possibly hang on. However, what about the long term? Within the Sunmoon Empire's borders, the empire had already promoted soul tool technology to ordinary citizens. Furthermore, it was extremely difficult to reclaim the cities that they had taken from the Heavenly Soul Empire. In the area of soul tools, the Sunmoon Empire was simply leading by too much. As time passed, the cities that had fallen to the Sunmoon Empire would likely yield to the Sunmoon Empire even if they didn't attack, and only maintained the current situation. With more resources and support, the Sunmoon Empire's soul tool technology would advance faster and faster. This would further the gap between them and the other empires of the original Dolor continent. The current peak of soul tool technology right now was the Death God. However, the Death God was undoubtedly an exception. It was a soul tool that everyone feared. It could only be operated after killing people. One Death God wasn't considered too terrifying to Hui Yuhao. Its threat would cease to exist once the soldiers of the Sunmoon Empire couldn't handle it anymore. However, soul tool technology was continuously improving. As it continued to develop, there would be a day in the future where it could possibly threaten titled Dolor and even ultimate Dolor. If that was the case, the Sunmoon Empire's rule over the entire continent was bound to happen. Hui Yuhao didn't reject soul tool technology. He was also a soul engineer. As soul tool technology kept on developing, it represented societal progress. It was an evolution of the entire Dolor continent. However, he didn't wish to see the Sunmoon Empire ruling over the entire Dolor continent. This was something that he couldn't accept. However, there wasn't any stopping them. Over the past few thousand years, the three empires of the original Dolor continent had already told him the answer using the current situation that they were facing, closing their empire and refusing to accept development as a reality, as well as unwilling to learn the qualities of others. The end result was that they were on the verge of becoming obsolete. The three empires of the original Dolor continent were too huge. All the authority lay in the hands of the nobility. Even if the imperial families wanted to promote soul tool development, it wasn't something that was effective in the short term. Most noble families were still discriminative towards soul tools. Perhaps the only hope lay in the academy. Shrek was only a city. It was mainly led by Shrek Academy. Over the past 10 years, ever since Elder Mu had recognized the importance of developing soul tools, and after Elder Xian had taken the reins, Shrek Academy had been continuously developing its soul tool department, and the Tang sect was established to encourage the speedy development of Shrek City. Furthermore, there weren't any noble families in Shrek City. Perhaps the future Shrek was the only hope left for the original Dolor continent. After thinking until here, Hui Yuhao seemed to have thought of something. There was something extra in his head. However, he couldn't tell what it was yet. Just as he was gradually clearing his thoughts, his spiritual sea moved slightly. Nan Chuchio was awake. Nan Chuchio looked very depressed as she exited his spectral demiplane. Hui Yuhao smiled as he asked, "What's wrong, Chuchio?" Nan Chuchio looked at the weather outside and said, "Surely this isn't the second day already, right?" Hui Yuhao shrugged. Nan Chuchio snorted and said, "What's so impressive about bullying me? Your spiritual power is just a little stronger. There'll be a day where I'll surpass you." When she said that last sentence, she didn't seem to have any confidence at all. Hui Yuhao didn't mock her. He only smiled and said, "I'm waiting for that day to come. How are you feeling? Are you feeling unwell?" Nan Chuchio snorted and replied, "No. I'm great. For someone who doesn't know how to appreciate beauty, HMPH. Hui Yuhao shook his head helplessly. He didn't try to explain himself either. He believed that Nan Chuchio would understand his intentions in the future. "Let's go. I'll bring you back to your sect." After he finished speaking, Nan Chuchio started walking out, but Hui Yuhao stopped her and took her somewhere to eat first. After eating, they checked out of the inn and came to the streets of Dragon City. Nan Chuchio was very familiar with Dragon City. After making turns within the city, they came to the center of the city that was facing the north. She looked to the street sides and corners of walls. Evidently, she was still displeased with Hui Yuhao and refused to acknowledge him. Hui Yuhao was very quiet as he followed her. After walking for some time, Nan Chuchio's eyes brightened. She stopped in front of a cloth shop and twisted her head to Hui Yuhao before gesturing towards him. "Quick, come." Hui Yuhao hurried forward and entered this cloth shop behind Nan Chuchio. It was a little empty in the shop. Perhaps it was because it was still morning, and they had just opened shop. There was a shopkeeper at the counter, and there were 2 workers outside. Seeing Nan Chuchio, the shopkeeper evidently appeared to know her. His eyes brightened and he rushed over. After taking a few glances, he whispered, "Young mistress, you are finally here." Nan Chuchio also lowered her voice and asked, "Where's my mother?" The shopkeeper answered, "She's in the back." "This is?" He was doubtful as he looked at Hui Yuhao. Nan Chuchio replied, "He's my friend. My mom knows him. Bring us to see her." "Yes." The shopkeeper led both of them to a small door and proceeded towards the backyard of the shop. Hui Yuhao thought to himself, "The foundation of the Earth Dragon sect is so deep in this city. It's not easy for the Sunmoon Empire to chase them away." Nan Chuchio had just finished her breakfast and was basking in the sun in the backyard. Seeing that Hui Yuhao and Nan Chuchio had arrived, she was delighted. She smiled as she received them. "Elder Nan." Hui Yuhao greeted her with a bow. Nan Chuchio stood at one side and shouted, "Good kid." Nan Chuchio glared at her daughter. "How can you take such advantage of him? Don't be so mischievous." Nan Chuchio laughed cheekily, and her displeasure at Hui Yuhao seemed to disappear. Hui Yuhao lowered his voice and said, "Elder, how is the situation in Dragon City? I heard that the Soul Master sects in the city have been taken away by the Sunmoon Empire. Nan Chuchio sighed and said, it's too quick. In just a few months, the Sunmoon Empire have already occupied this city. Their powers are beyond our imagination. You're right. Most of the large sects in Dragon City, apart from us, have been forced outside of Dragon City. The rest have also been taken away. The Sunmoon Empire has performed a clean sweep of the Soul Master sects in the city. However, it's fortunate that they've not done anything to the people. This is the reason why we've been able to preserve some of our resources. I'm sure there are others who are still here, but have yet to reveal themselves. Hu Hao furrowed his brow slightly and said, I wonder what the Sunmoon Empire is planning by taking away so many of the Soul Master sects. Nan Chuchio laughed coldly and said, what else can they want? They'll probably tempt them to join them. If it's not possible, they'll just kill all of them. There are only two possibilities. There'll be those who are cowardly and afraid of death. I heard that the Sunmoon Empire added 2 more Soul Engineer Legions after occupying the Heavenly Soul Empire's territories. These 2 Soul Engineer Legions were divided and sent to the original Soul Engineer Legions. The Soul Engineers in these legions are equipped with basic Soul tools and have become part of their fighting forces. This Sunmoon Empire is really devious. Those who lack backbone also deserve to be killed. They were fueling the war through what they'd won from the war. After Hu Hao listened to Nan Chuchio's words, he couldn't help but feel a sense of helplessness. After the Sunmoon Empire started its invasion, he felt that their strategy was flawless, and they completely had the upper hand. From the initial feint attack on the Star Luo Empire to restrain them to the massive invasion of the Heavenly Soul Empire to the series of targeted strategies later on, the Sunmoon Empire had achieved the greatest advantage in the shortest period of time. Marshal. Are those strategies devised by that marshal mentioned by the mayor? I didn't expect Xu Tianran to have such a powerful figure under him. I wonder what kind of clash will occur when we face him on the battlefield in the future. Nan Chuchio said, since you're here, let's exploit the opportunity that there aren't many Sunmoon Empire soldiers here right now and get things done. Come on, I'll bring you there. All right. Nan Chuchio dressed herself up and put on a bamboo hat with a veil before leading both of them out of the shop. She proceeded in a northerly direction. Nan Chuchio whispered to Hu Hao beside her, before Dragon City was occupied, the Earth Dragon sect occupied the city's north, and the Heavenly Dragon sect occupied the city's south. We've never touched each other. The Heavenly Dragon sect is more powerful. Their sect leader is even a titled Doluo. I'm not sure what their situation is right now either. Nan Chuchio turned her head to Nan Chuchio and said, speaking of it, I'm really in awe of old Qianlong. When the Sunmoon Empire's troops arrived, that old fellow led his sect to defend the city along with the Dragon City Defense Army. I heard he killed many enemies. After the city was breached, the Heavenly Dragon sect suffered massive losses, and old Qianlong died in battle. I heard Yu Qianlong disappeared, but I'm not sure where. After hearing Nan Chuchio's words, Hu Hao and Nan Chuchio were both in awe too. Someone who defended the city until the very last moment deserved massive respect. If Yu Qianlong had run away, it meant that the lineage of the Heavenly Dragon sect could still be carried on. Nan Chuchio said heavily, I have been fighting old Qianlong for my entire life, and have always been restrained by him. I didn't expect him to die earlier than me. The Heavenly Dragon sect has been half wiped out, while the remaining ones have been taken away. The hateful thing is that there were a few sects that secretly surrendered to the Sunmoon Empire. If they didn't open the city gate, things wouldn't have. Nan Chuchio turned more and more grim as she spoke until here. Nan Chuchio rushed forward a few steps and grabbed her hands. Mom, we'll avenge Uncle Heavenly Dragon one day in the future. Your actions were right. We can't fight the Sunmoon Empire given our strength. It's only through surviving that we can take revenge in the future. Uncle Qianlong is sometimes too stubborn. If he were willing to listen to you and move to Shrek City, he wouldn't have. Shut up! Nan Chuchio shouted, and Nan Chuchio was stunned in place. Nan Chuchio looked very strict as she said, he wasn't being stubborn. He just couldn't give up the city. Dragon City is the place where the Heavenly Dragon and Earth Dragon sects were established. I couldn't lead the Earth Dragon sect to fight the enemy along with the Heavenly Dragon sect, and I'm very guilty over that. Unless I can avenge him one day, the Earth Dragon sect can never lift its head in front of the Heavenly Dragon sect again. I already regret my decision. If I had known, I would have been willing to fight to the death with the old Qianlong. As she spoke until here, her eyes filled with tears and she clenched her fists. Hu Yuhao sighed in his heart when he sensed Nan Chuchio's deadly aura. Seeing that the city where her sect had been established had been sacrificed, and her old friend and foe had died in battle, Nan Chuchio must be feeling very down. Elder Nan, we'll get Dragon City back. Elder Qianlong was a hero of Dragon City, and so are you. Hu Yuhao said sincerely. Nan Chuchio lowered her head slightly and gently shook it. She didn't say anything else, and turned around before continuing to walk forward. Nan Chuchio stuck out her tongue and looked scared. Her mother was normally very nice to her. She was hardly so strict. After passing streets and alleys, an extremely large courtyard appeared in their vision. After seeing this courtyard, both Nan Chuchio and Nan Chuchio seemed to be very sad. Undoubtedly, this was the Earth Dragon sect. There were seals all over the gate of the Earth Dragon sect, but no one was guarding it. Mom, there shouldn't be too many guards in the city. Why don't we kill them and snatch Dragon City back? Nan Chuchio said hatefully. Nan Chuchio glared at her and said, how is it so simple? If the Sunmoon Empire dared to put so few guards in the city, they must have their reasons. There's another announcement on the notice board at the side. If any Soul Master dares to revolt, they'll kill all the Soul Masters they took from Dragon City. If this wasn't the case, do you really think I would have waited until now? Scoundrel! Nan Chuchio shouted furiously. Nan Chuchio's eyes turned cold. Seeing that there wasn't anyone around looking at them, she nodded to the other two before drifting up. She entered the sect first. Hu Yuhao tugged Nan Chuchio's sleeves before they followed Nan Chuchio. It was a mess inside the Earth Dragon sect. Many areas had been damaged. There were broken walls all around. Evidently, the place had been ransacked. Nan Chuchio hadn't returned in a long time. Upon seeing the condition of the place, her eyes turned red, and she wanted to turn around and rush off. Nan Chuchio grabbed hold of her, but it took some effort to restrain her. We need to take care of business. Yuhao was right. We'll come back one day. Nan Chuchio led both of them to the backyard of the Earth Dragon sect. It was a huge garden. Right now, the garden was in ruins. When the Sunmoon Empire's troops searched the place, the garden was greatly damaged. It would be difficult for it to return to its former look in the future. Nan Chuchio shut her eyes in torment as she saw all this. The Earth Dragon sect's legacy had been passed down for more than 1,000 years, but it died in her generation. Undoubtedly, she was in great pain right now. However, she didn't stop. She led the two of them to the depths of the backyard, where there was a well. Hu Yuhao was slightly moved as he came closer and closer to the well. He could subtly sense movements from the Ice Empress, and his own Ice Jade Empress Scorpion seemed to want to be released. There seemed to be something very attractive within the well. It's here. This is a cold spring. There is concentrated spiritual energy in this spring. It's very nourishing for Soul Masters. However, only the sect leaders of the Earth Dragon sect know about this. At the bottom of this spring, there is actually a cave. However, we've isolated it from the world using some mechanisms. Inside that cave, there are many exotic mineral stones. It's just that the temperature inside the cave is too low. Even our ancestors that were titled Doluo couldn't stay inside it for long. Our ancestor managed to mine a small mineral stone once. It contained a strong ice-type aura inside it. It also seemed to be a metal. This is why our ancestors believed that there is a mine inside this cave, a mine that contains an ice-type metal. As to its standard, we have no clue. As she spoke until here, Nan Chuchio looked at Hu Yuhao and said, Yuhao, your martial soul is of ultimate ice. You should be able to survive in this cave. If the stones below are of use to you, try to mine them. After all, we won't be back here anytime soon. Just take it as our contribution to the Tang sect. The Tang sect has been very nice to us in Shrek City. I hope we can work together more closely in the future. Thank you, Elder. Hui Yuhao didn't stand on ceremony. Although the ice spring was a barrier, he could clearly sense that the stuff in the cave was indeed useful to him. Nan Chuchio told him how to open the cave in detail before saying, "Go on down. I'll guard this place with Chuchio. Don't force it. Although you possess an ultimate ice martial soul, I almost got frozen when I tried to go down for even just a few seconds. The temperature below is simply too low. It doesn't seem like a human can handle it." "All right." Hui Yuhao acknowledged her words. Nan Chuchio wouldn't warn him without reason. Naturally, he wouldn't be careless. After slightly adjusting his own state, he gestured to both Nan Chuchio and Nan Chuchio before drifting up and dropping into the well. The moment he entered the well, a sinister cold breeze swept over him. However, the cold could only serve to strengthen Hui Yuhao. Even without unleashing his martial soul, he wasn't affected at all. However, for safety's sake, Hui Yuhao still unleashed his Ice Jade Empress Scorpion before entering the well, and used his Ice Empress armor. After a layer of diamond ice crystals covered his body, he sank deep into the spring. The cold spring was icy cold. Its temperature was at least in the negatives. However, the strange thing was that it didn't freeze up. After entering the spring, Hui Yuhao could clearly sense chilly origin energy rippling through the water. Although such ice-type origin energy didn't affect him, the chilly aura that it possessed was very pure. No wonder Nan Chuchio claimed that this spring could nourish a human's body. The spring was very deep. Hui Yuhao circulated his soul power and sank down. The deeper he went, the lower the temperature became. If it were any other ordinary soul master here, his soul power would be drained very quickly. However, Hui Yuhao wasn't affected at all. His martial soul was even being nourished. The lights around also started to dim. However, this didn't affect Hui Yuhao at all, even though the darkness and cold would have greatly affected a soul master of the same rank as him. Although his spiritual power couldn't reach as far in the water, it was already very strong. Apart from the fact that it extended at a slower speed, Hui Yuhao wasn't drained much in this aspect either. The deeper he went, the faster his spiritual power extended downward. Even the Earth Dragon sect wasn't clear on what was going on down below. Of course, Hui Yuhao had to be cautious to keep himself from getting into any trouble. Nan Chuchio had told Hui Yuhao that this spring was around 30 meters deep. At the very bottom, even a soul dolor like her wouldn't be able to resist it. The cave was located at around a depth of between 30 to 35 meters. However, Hui Yuhao sensed that the depth of this spring didn't seem to be only 30 meters. When he was 30 meters down, he felt a very strong surge of cold. It felt as if it were coming the bottom, just below where the strong surge of cold originated from. However, he discovered that the mouth of the spring seemed to be down there at the bottom. The mouth was very large, a person could get through it. Hui Yuhao could sense a strong, deep blue color using his spiritual detection. This showed how cold it was down there. He was very curious about this spring mouth. The colder a place was, the better it was for him to cultivate his ultimate ice soul power. To him, it felt very similar to the ice-fire yin-yang well. This was something that he hadn't expected at all. However, Hui Yuhao needed to breathe even though he wasn't affected by the cold and darkness. Even though he could hold his breath for a long time, he couldn't do it forever. Let me find the cave opening first. As he thought, Hui Yuhao continued to use his soul power to control his body as he dived down. Very soon, he was at a depth of 25 meters. His diving speed was much quicker than the ancestors of the Earth Dragon sect. After all, he didn't have to protect himself from the cold. The walls around the spring were cold and slippery. Touching them was like touching manifold mysterious ice. As Hui Yuhao dived down, he kept on searching for the cave opening. This cave was rumored to exist naturally. It was originally not a well, but the natural mouth of a spring. After the Earth Dragon sect gained control of this place, they built a well specifically for it. This was why they designed mechanisms when they first constructed the well. If one wasn't the leader of the Earth Dragon sect, it was very difficult to find these mechanisms. Hui Yuhao followed the walls and felt his way to the cave opening. With the help of his spiritual power, he quickly located a bulge. Normally, one would press down on such a bulge when they felt it. However, the Earth Dragon sect designed it in the reverse. Hui Yuhao grabbed hold of that bulge and pulled it up. He used more than 40% of his soul power before the bulge moved up slightly. After this, he turned around and swam to the wall on the other side. He felt an ordinary dent on it. This dent didn't exist previously. It only appeared after he meddled with the bulge earlier. He pressed hard on the dent, and a soft zia sound was heard. Hui Yuhao returned to the bulge and pressed it down this time. He pressed it all the way down until it disappeared. The entire wall started to shake slightly. Hui Yuhao turned around and saw a door that could only fit a single person slowly opening. The weird thing was that there was a strong surge of cold as the door slowly opened. Even Hui Yuhao could sense a tinge of chill, though he possessed an ultimate ice martial soul. What a low temperature! Hui Yuhao was in great awe, and focused his attention on it. The door slowly opened, and Hui Yuhao rushed forward. It was clearly a cold spring outside. However, this door seemed to possess some magical force. Not a drop of the cold spring water seeped past it. Even as Hui Yuhao entered, the cold spring water was filtered from his body. He instantly became very dry. As he was dried, he felt an extreme sense of chill sweep over him. Gusts of chilly air carried visible icy elements that surged towards Hui Yuhao's body. However, it was a pity that they were stopped by Hui Yuhao's Ice Empress armor. Not only did they not cause him any harm, but they even stimulated Hui Yuhao's ultimate ice soul power. Even though Hui Yuhao was using his Ice Empress right now, he could still sense the situation in the cavern using his spiritual power. This cavern couldn't be considered very large. It was filled with unknown mineral stones, and the temperature was very low. It was similar to the extreme chill ice spring. Its temperature was comparable. If Hui Yuhao's abilities were still at the level they were when he had first encountered the extreme chill ice spring, he wouldn't be able to bear such a low temperature. He didn't rush to venture in. He only carefully observed his surroundings at the cave opening. At the same time, the Ice Empress started calling out in his spiritual sea. Although it was unknown what kind of ice-type treasure belonged here, it was clear that such an extreme level of cold wouldn't exist for no reason. Even at the core of the extreme north, the temperature wasn't so low. Jade green lights flashed, brightening their surroundings. The Ice Empress silently appeared beside Hui Yuhao. The light from her body lit up everything around them. Hui Yuhao was immediately stunned. Hui Yuhao wasn't the only one who was stunned. The Ice Empress was also stunned. The cavern looked extremely beautiful as it was lit up by the Ice Empress' jade green light. It almost seemed surreal. The entire cavern was formed using all types of crystals. These crystals were jade blue, but it was likely that the Ice Empress' jade green light had affected their color a little. They should, in fact, be deep blue in color. These crystals were smooth and transparent. They looked ethereally beautiful under the jade green light. Their beauty was almost indescribable. It was as if Hui Yuhao and the Ice Empress had entered an immortal realm. The ground, walls, and ceiling were filled with such crystals. They varied greatly, and were all glowing brightly. The different intensities of the jade blue crystals brightened the cavern such that every minor detail could be clearly observed. Hui Yuhao was in awe as he asked, "Ice Empress, what is this?" The Ice Empress was a little stunned as she looked at everything around her. After this, her figure flashed before she drifted away. Although she existed as a spirit and a spiritual entity, her affinity with the ice element was still very strong. She could sense that the chill in the cavern was surging towards her as she flew out. After this, the chill started to revolve around her. This seems like the legendary manifold mysterious ice cavern. How is this possible? Why is there such a place here? God! This is unbelievable. The Ice Empress' voice seemed to have turned hysterical. It was Hui Yuhao's first time seeing her so shocked. No, this isn't the manifold mysterious ice cavern yet. This is the divine ice crystal that accompanies the manifold mysterious ice cavern. There are so many divine ice crystals here. I'm sure the manifold mysterious ice cavern exists here. This is too unbelievable. How is it possible that such a place exists in the human world? The Ice Empress appeared to have gone a little crazy as she kept on dancing in the cavern. The light from her body lit up the entire cavern. The cavern couldn't be considered very large. It was only 30 meters in length, but Hui Yuhao could sense that there were streaks of light blue mist revolving around the Ice Empress as she flew within the cavern. Even he was in awe of the extremely low temperature of these streaks of mist. Such a low temperature was completely unimaginable. The Ice Empress flew for a good 15 minutes before she stopped. Hui Yuhao breathed in the cold air and felt as if he had to circulate his ultimate ice soul power to dispel the chill. This meant that the cold here even surpassed his ultimate ice. It was close to absolute zero. Yuhao, how did you find this place? How did you find it? The Ice Empress quickly regained her awareness and returned to Hui Yuhao. She grabbed his shoulders. Apart from the look of excitement on her face, she was also greatly sentimental. An elder brought me here. It's the location of their sect. What's wrong, Ice Empress? What's the manifold mysterious ice cavern? And the divine ice crystal? The Ice Empress took in a deep breath and tried to calm her emotions. She said, the manifold mysterious ice cavern is an ice-type ultimate place. Let me give you an example. If the Snow Empress and I could have found the manifold mysterious ice cavern before we become your spirits, we wouldn't have needed to find any way to achieve a breakthrough. Our abilities would have been able to overcome any bottleneck we faced. In the near future, we would have definitely been able to challenge Di Tian. This video will end here.